The year was 1983. Briar Glen, a quaint town nestled amid rolling hills and whispering willows, held a dark secret. Behind its idyllic facade, an unspeakable horror unfolded. Children began to disappear. Their laughter, once echoing through the park, was silenced. The townsfolk, gripped by fear, whispered of a boogeyman lurking in the shadows. But the truth, as we would come to find, was far more sinister. The disappearances remained unsolved. A cold case file gathered dust at the sheriff's office. The town, forever scarred, tried to move on. But the memory of the missing children lingered like a ghost, haunting the dreams of those who dared to remember. Years later, Clara, a young journalist known for her relentless pursuit of the truth, returned to her hometown. She had left Briar Glen with a heavy heart, vowing never to return. But the unresolved mysteries of her past had a way of pulling her back. Clara's reputation as a fearless journalist had grown over the years, but the shadows of her childhood still haunted her. Briar Glen held painful memories for her. The town, once vibrant and full of life, now seemed to be a ghost of its former self. The abandoned playground where she used to play with her best friend Tommy stood as a stark reminder of the past. Clara couldn't help but feel a pang of sadness as she looked at a childhood photograph of them together. It was here, as a child, that she lost her best friend, Tommy, to the mysterious disappearances. The memory of that fateful day was etched in her mind. The town had been gripped by fear, and the loss of Tommy had left a void in her heart that never truly healed. The candle beside his photo was a symbol of the hope that one day the truth would come to light. Now, armed with a reporter's notepad and a heart filled with determination, she was back to uncover the truth behind the town's tragic past. Clara spent countless hours poring over old newspaper clippings, trying to piece together the puzzle. Each article, each note, brought her one step closer to the answers she sought. Clara began her investigation by revisiting the old police files. The dusty archives held secrets that had been buried for years. She meticulously went through each file, hoping to find a clue that had been overlooked. The yellow documents told a story of a town plagued by fear and uncertainty. The details were scant, the leads cold. Frustration began to set in as she realized how little progress had been made over the years. The scattered case files painted a grim picture of the investigation's failures. Clara knew she had to dig deeper to find the missing pieces of the puzzle. Yet a recurring detail caught her eye. Witnesses reported hearing a haunting lullaby, "Hush, little darling." Echoing in the night, the children vanished. This eerie detail sent chills down her spine. The lullaby, once a comforting tune, had become a harbinger of dread. Clara couldn't shake the feeling that this was a crucial piece of the mystery. This eerie clue sent shivers down her spine, igniting a flicker of hope that she might finally find answers. The realization that she was on the right track gave her renewed energy. Clara knew that the journey ahead would be fraught with challenges, but she was determined to uncover the truth, no matter the cost. The return of the journalist marked the beginning of a new chapter in Briar Glen's story. Days turned into weeks as Clara tirelessly interviewed townsfolk, piecing together fragments of the past. Many were reluctant to speak, their eyes filled with fear. It was as if the town itself was trying to silence the truth. Yet Clara pressed on, driven by the memory of Tommy and the other lost children. One evening, while walking home after a fruitless interview, Clara heard it. The faint melody of "Hush, Little Darling" carried on the wind. It seemed to be coming from the edge of town near the abandoned Harlow house. The house, shrouded in sinister rumors, had been empty since the disappearances. Despite a chill running down her spine, Clara knew she had to investigate. Clara cautiously approached the Harlow house. The windows were boarded up and the yard was overgrown with weeds. As she stepped onto the porch, it creaked ominously beneath her feet. Through a crack in the wood, she saw a flickering light and heard the lullaby growing louder. Taking a deep breath, Clara knocked. The door creaked open, revealing a frail old woman. This was Mrs. Harlow, the town's reclusive doll-maker. She peered at Clara with suspicion. "What do you want?" she croaked, clutching a porcelain doll that eerily hummed, "Hush, little darling." Clara, her heart pounding, asked about the lullaby and the missing children. Mrs. Harlowe's eyes widened in fear. "Leave this place," she whispered, slamming the door shut. Section 5. The Hatch. Unfazed by Mrs. Harlowe's warning, Clara felt she was getting closer to the truth. The lullaby, the doll, the fear in Mrs. Harlowe's eyes, it all pointed to something sinister hidden within the old house. Clara decided to return later that night, determined to uncover the truth. Under the cloak of darkness, Clara returned to the Harlowe house. She found a loose board near the porch, revealing a hidden hatch leading to a dark, earthen tunnel. Despite her better judgment, she felt a magnetic pull towards the unknown. Armed with only her flashlight and a growing sense of dread, Clara descended into the darkness. The air grew colder and thick with the scent of dust and decay as Clara ventured deeper into the tunnel. The lullaby, now deafeningly loud, guided her. The tunnel opened into a large, hidden cellar beneath the Harlowe house. What Clara saw there chilled her to the bone. Dozens, no, hundreds of porcelain dolls lined the walls, their glass eyes staring blankly into the darkness. Music boxes tinkled, playing different versions of "Hush, Little Darling," creating a cacophony of sound. In the center of the room lay a small, child-sized skeleton clutching a faded diary. Clara opened it, her hands trembling, and began to read. The diary belonged to Tommy, Clara's childhood friend. Clara had found it hidden in the attic of her old family home, tucked away in a dusty box. The moment she opened it, she was transported back to her childhood, to the days when she and Tommy would play in the fields, unaware of the dark secrets lurking in their small town. Through his innocent words, a horrifying truth unraveled. Tommy's entries started off with the mundane details of a child's life, but soon took a darker turn. He wrote about strange occurrences, about children disappearing without a trace, and the eerie silence that followed their absence. Tommy had stumbled upon Mrs. Harlowe kidnapping children and taking them to her underground lullaby house. He described the basement in chilling detail, the cold stone walls, the damp air, and the sense of dread that hung heavy in the air. He wrote about the dolls, the music boxes, and the strange, almost hypnotic lullabies that played from them. These toys were not just playthings, they were tools of control used to keep the children in a trance-like state. The chilling lullaby seemed to hypnotize the children, making them docile and compliant. Tommy's descriptions were vivid, painting a picture of a nightmare that no child should ever have to endure. The last entry ended abruptly, cut off mid-sentence. It was as if Tommy had been interrupted, his final thoughts left hanging in the air, a silent scream for help that never came. Suddenly a figure emerged from the shadows. Clara's heart raced as she recognized the familiar silhouette. It was a figure she had trusted all her life, someone she never thought capable of such betrayal. It was Sheriff Dale Cooper, her childhood friend, and the town's trusted lawman. The man who had always been a pillar of the community now stood before her, shrouded in darkness. His face, illuminated by Clara's flashlight, was a mask of cold detachment. The warmth and kindness she once knew were gone, replaced by a chilling indifference. "You weren't supposed to find this, Clara," he said, his voice devoid of emotion. The words hung in the air, heavy with the weight of his betrayal. He had been helping Mrs. Harlowe all these years, covering up her crimes, silencing anyone who came close to the truth. The realization hit Clara like a ton of bricks. The man she had looked up to, the man who was supposed to protect them, was the very one who had been hiding the town's darkest secret. Clara stared at Dale, her heart pounding in her chest. She had uncovered a web of unimaginable horror, and the one person she thought she could trust was at its center. "Why, Dale? How could you?" she whispered, her voice trembling with betrayal and disbelief. Dale advanced towards her, the lullaby reaching a fever pitch, and Clara knew she had to escape. She threw her flashlight at Dale, momentarily blinding him, and ran. She scrambled through the tunnel, the lullaby echoing behind her like a macabre soundtrack to her escape. Clara emerged from the hatch, gasping for air, and fled into the night. Clara went straight to the authorities, presenting them with Tommy's diary. Her hands trembled as she handed over the worn, leather-bound book, its pages filled with the chilling accounts of the lullaby house. The officers listened intently, their faces growing more serious with each passing moment. Clara's voice wavered as she recounted the horrors she had witnessed, the fear and despair etched into every word. The Lullaby house was raided, but Mrs. Harlow was gone, vanished without a trace. The once lively house now stood as a dark, abandoned shell, its secrets hidden in the shadows. The police searched every corner, but it was as if she had disappeared into thin air, leaving behind only the echoes of her sinister lullabies. Dale, however, was apprehended. The once respected sheriff, now a disheveled and broken man, was deemed mentally unfit to stand trial. His eyes, once sharp and authoritative, were now vacant and haunted. The townspeople watched in shock as he was taken away, their protector revealed to be a part of the nightmare that had plagued their community. Dale was committed to a psychiatric facility where he would spend the rest of his days. The walls of the institution echoed with the cries of the lost and the damned, a fitting place for a man who had lost his mind to the darkness. Briar Glen was left reeling, the truth about their beloved sheriff and the missing children sending shockwaves through the community. The townspeople gathered in small groups, their faces etched with worry and disbelief. The revelation of Dale's involvement in the disappearances shattered the illusion of safety they had clung to. Conversations were hushed, and eyes were filled with a mix of fear and sorrow. The community was in shock, struggling to come to terms with the betrayal. Yet there were those who refused to believe. Clinging to the image of Dale as their protector, they defended him passionately, unable to reconcile the man they knew with the monster he had become. Denial ran deep, and the town was divided, torn between the truth and the comforting lies they had told themselves for so long. The truth, it seemed, was a bitter pill to swallow. Faces were marked with sadness and conflict as the reality of the situation set in. The once united community was now fractured, each person grappling with their own emotions and the weight of the truth. In the end, justice was served, but the scars of Briar Glen's dark past remain. The courtroom echoed with the sound of the gavel, a symbol of the justice that had been sought and found, but no verdict could erase the pain and the memories of what had transpired. The town would never be the same, forever marked by the darkness that had once lurked within its borders. The lullaby may have been silenced, but the memory of the lost children continues to echo through the town's hushed whispers and haunted dreams. As dusk falls, the eerie quiet of the town is broken only by the faint whispers of the past, a reminder of the innocence that was stolen and the dark